Kupo Mughals, it's the Schwantz27 here to recap Week 5 for the Flashback Battle Royale event. This time, it was Edgar's Chainsaw from Coliseum 2. For the second time in a row, we had Tools Edgar to start out with, and a barter seed meant emphasis on shops, but needing to get items for trade from chests. We also got some help with getting things to trade with a Capture Lock and Lure Mog to start the seed, in addition to the +5 magic power and +5 strength stats. Our free checks gave a Genji helmet at the Figaro throne, a choice between Tirado and a Force Armor for Locke's weapon shop, as well as Siren at the end of the Phoenix Cave, with a gem box from the White Dragon if you decided to make this not a free check. Then the hunt was on for the shop that had all the goodies, and for the World of Balance we found Thunder Shields and Offerings in Narsh, Experience Eggs in Tizen, as well as one in a chest in Albrook, along with Illuminas in that town's weapon shop and Genji Gloves in the Relic shop. Finally, in Thamasa there were Valiant Knives and Ragnaroks in the weapon shop. In the World of Ruin there were also Ragnaroks in Nikea and half-price cat hoods in South Figaro. To finish off Locke's set of checks, number 24 was taken out by our Big Sword Swingers and Blowfish early, or Arrow and Quasar later, for Crusader. This meant we had a choice between Mog's pair of checks or Edgar's, and going to the top of Narsh, we found Sketch Celeste or a Thunder Shield at Lone Wolf, followed by Slot Cyan at the Narsh battle, and suddenly we were at 5 characters already, with at least 3 of them being able to wield those big swords. Mughal Defense had a Flame Shield, and Doma Siege had a Thunder Shield for even more elemental protection. After hitting a couple of dead checks, Doma Dream had at least one required progression, but we also found Alexander after the first boss Funbaba, Palador from taking down Air Force, and a Minerva on the Doma throne. Gogo was the prisoner in the basement of South Figaro, and now we just needed to get shiny stones to get our own requirements. The other 3-part check we had access to was Magitech Factory, and that was a red cap followed by Raiden. Those that skipped out on the last part of the check quote-unquote missed out on the Magimaster at the end of the minecart ride, which could be a problem if you didn't have Berserk from another Esper in the seed, but Quasar and Chainsaw could make do before Atma at the end for yet another Esper Phantom. Since we needed just Esper's Tritok Cliff was an ideal check, however, defeating Goddess only gave Marvel Shoes as the reward. Luckily for Madalas, he ran into Chatternook in the sky at the Doomgaze spot, which was an Esper Kieran. Runners that ended up doing Opera House Disruption got Setzer, who could do this check explicitly. Finally getting to the intended location, Mount Zozo, was the final Esper Tritok for Go mode. Gogo Zone Eater also had an Esper if you chose to fight with the bridge conductors, and had you instead gone through Edgar's checks, you'd get a pair of Espers at Engine Room and Ancient Castle, which meant that the character progression in this seed was at the top of Narsh only. The bosses inside Kefka's Tower weren't an issue for the powerhouse characters we had, and the same went for Kefka with access to Air Anchor for instant death, Siren for tier 2, and those that bought the 12k GP to Zen Thief and World of Ruin for Fenrir had Calmness protection in case the dual-wielding Illuminas or Ragnaroks weren't good enough. Although he ate an ultimate counter, Madalas 10408 was the time to beat this week, with only a 4-second cut line between the 20th and 21st place for this particular seed. The Memory Lane contenders also had Capture on their Dance Gao, along with Umaro to start. Edgar's free Figaro throne check had an Economizer, an Atma weapon in the Narsh shed paired well with half-price Offerings in World of Ruin South Figaro for a later build, but a Pearl Lance in the weapon shop with Dragoon Boots in the basement would work for Edgar for now. For Gao's checks, tossing dried meat at the reward on the Veldt with Starlet, and a Mario hat was at the end of Serpent Trench, but on Nikea's docks there were Ice Shields and Minervas for sale. This meant either Umaro's loop or Edgar's loop had to contain our next character besides the Narsh battle, and Dr. DT decided that they wanted to loop in the Gold Dragon for yet another Pearl Lance before a Snow Muffler reward from Tritok Cliff, and our 4th character, GP Rain Shadow at Yeti Cave. But it was blocked by Goddess, who could be a nightmare with Umaro. Thankfully, she played nice this time without a love token. Staying in the World of Ruin, Health Lock was face down in the Veldt Cave to further open up the seed. Heading back to the Narsh weapon shop gave us a Valiant Knife to go with those Offerings for a lock build or another red cap. Bleh. Gao Manor also had an offering if you didn't find them for sale, and with all the early dead checks, it made Floating Continent very appealing next. Raiden, Palador, and Kieran were the 3 Espers we found during that journey. Locke's South Figaro Cave in World of Balance had Seraphim, and Edgar's South Figaro Cave in the World of Ruin to the engine room was yet another Esper Siren, and the ancient castle was Stray with the dirt dragon down there dropping a behemoth suit. So it was either Kefka and Arsh or Phoenix Cave for the next character by process of elimination. Phoenix Cave was Dr. DT's choice, and a Magus Rod was the dragon drop reward, but the imp sprite at the end, giving Ragnarok the Esper, meant that this was a required Narsh battle seed, and on top of that, it was Swordtech Strago that was awaiting for you after a lengthy Doomgaze fight. Unfortunately, the Tizen Thief wasn't selling an Esper, so we had to make our way to one of the old man's checks. Peking Fanatic's Tower showed Gogo, which meant we could ignore it, and the coin flip between Ebbets Rock and Burning House landed on RNG Cave, but this was yet again another dead check with a snow muffler. Thus, it was on to the Burning House, where it made sense that Poltergeist was the boss at the end of the Casa del Fuego, but the Golem Esper for Calmness Protection was worth the reward after all. Given the staggering amount of checks that it took to get to the requirements, Kefka Tower skip was pretty much automatic here. As far as builds go, Gao casted Magic, Locke Valiant Knife Offering, Edgar Atma Weapon Offering, and Shadow was the recipient of the Boots and Lance combination, as we had more than enough levels by doing as many dragons as the seed threw at us. Dr. DT had some bad luck on insta-killing tools on Tier 2, but otherwise, it was smooth sailing onto a first place time of 1:28.18 and a much more difficult and prolonged seed than the main track this time around. Connecting this week to next week, you got a full tool set and a high tier item for setting the Zozo clock, and it ended up being an Illumina in the main seed. However, in the week 6 flag set, Battleground Zozo, it will be required for the Kefka unlock, along with 7 characters and 9 Espers. The Kefka Tower skip needs 2 more characters in count, and 1 individual character that is seed specific. We get 2 characters to start with, and with the seed, characters are not who they appear, as the sprites, palettes, and names have been shuffled. If you want to see the sprite replacements, check the individual seed that was rolled in the race room, and check out the graphics section. The character on the left side of the arrow is the actual in-game character whose checks are unlocked, while the right side of the arrow is the sprite that you'll see on the screen. Remember, you could always use the in-game track menu and go to checks to figure out what options you have open to you when you recruit someone. The character equipment pool will also not be what it seems, as it is shuffle plus 15% random instead of keeping vanilla equipment pools plus random. To go with the Zozo theme of being untrustworthy, enemy ability scaling is random instead of elemental based, along with the normalize and distort flag. Thieves, treasure hunters, shopkeepers, won't give you any GP for your items when selling back, but chests are 100% random to help make up for that fact. However, 5% of those will contain random encounters, so be careful with your hand in the cookie jar. Not pictured on this infographic, which may be of use, is that enemy steals and drops are shuffled plus 100% random, again, fitting the theme of things not appearing what they seem with these flags. So this makes the vanilla monster in a box chests less appealing, but random grind fight encounters can drop really big ticket items, so maybe getting caught by a trap chest might not be so bad after all. This will be an interesting seed to try to put your finger on, as there are lots of different pieces of randomization being applied in this one that runners won't be used to compared to a standard flag set. In addition, next week is the last hurrah of Memory Lane, as the person in the points lead for that track will be thrown into week 7 with the top 15 runners from the main track on the Zozo Battlegrounds flag set. This will be an interesting one to keep tabs on. I've been the Schwantz27. Until next time.